John Jones is not fighting Tom Aspinall, and he was never going to fight Tom Aspinall. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why. Starting off with the first reason. The truth is, John Jones is not a true heavyweight. He never has been, and he never will be. He has the perfect build, frame, muscularity to compete at 205 pounds. That's just perfect for him. That's where he's the most athletic, the most agile, and it's just a weight class that suits him very perfectly, right? So when DC and John Jones were talking, they thought they were off air. John Jones says that he's about 220 to 223 pounds. And that seems like a very fair weight to me. I see no reason why he would be lying here. And it's not some like outrageous weight for a light heavyweight, right? So for this video, I'm going to assume that light heavyweight John Jones weighs 221.5 pounds. Now moving on. In February 8th of 2020, that was John Jones' last ever light heavyweight fight against Dominic Reyes. And then he took 3 years and 24 days off to come and fight Cyril Gane. And then he weighed in at 248. That's a 26.5 pound difference in 3 years and 24 days. Not too bad. It's not too shabby for a bulk, gaining 26.5 pounds, assuming that he gained a lot of muscle, of course some fat, but assuming that he still has the same athleticism, agility, speed. But the truth is he doesn't, and he didn't. And he realized this because he corrected it in his next fight. Next fight against Stipe Miocic. This was 1 year, 8 months, and 12 days after his very first heavyweight fight, after his heavyweight debut. He went down 10.5 pounds. He weighed in at 237.5. So, since his last light heavyweight fight to his most current heavyweight fight, which was 4 years, 9 months, and 8 days, he netted plus 16 pounds. 16 pounds in almost 5 years. You could again say, hey, that's not too shabby, assuming he put on, maybe 12, 14 pounds of muscle and maybe 2 to 4 pounds of fat. But is that what he did? And how did he look? Being 10.5 pounds less. How did John Jones look in the octagon? Did he look super fast? No. I mean, there were some times, we're going to get into the Stipe fight a little bit later, but there were times when Stipe was backing him up. Jones looked so flat-footed and slow and just not very impressive, honestly, right? And if you look at the physique difference, remember, this is a 16-pound difference, right? These two right here are from his last ever fight at light heavyweight against Dominic Reyes. Let's compare the front double biceps first. And this one right here is his most recent heavyweight fight against Stipe. If we're comparing the front double bicep, he looks lean here. You can see the muscularity a lot clearer. And here, of course, he looks bulkier. After all, he's 16 pounds heavier. But does this look like a guy who's gained even 8 pounds of muscle? I wouldn't even say that for sure. I think that John Jones, I mean, he may maybe put on a few pounds of muscle, but I think like here to here, it's majority fat, man. It's majority fat, which is just making him slower, weighing on him a lot more obviously. And if we're going to compare just like the front relaxed pictures, John Jones here, he has abs, he has good arm definition. You can see the shoulders pop some. And then here, only once again, 16 pounds heavier. I mean, a little bit tubby, a little bit husky, just a little bit chubby, which is fine for a heavyweight. But it's not exactly ideal for almost 5 years off, coming back looking like this. Like, I think he gained less than 8 pounds of muscle. Less than 8 pounds of muscle in 5 years. That's horrible. That is horrible. And he's just not a true heavyweight, man. And the reason he was willing to fight Cyril Gane and Stipe, one, Cyril Gane has huge holes in his game. Clearly, as we saw, the wrestling, it's just not there. It's just not there. It wasn't there. He's working on it. But the truth is, John is just a better wrestler. And I think he would have had the exact same success if he didn't bulk at all. And, fought at his light heavyweight weight, which is like 221.5 against Gon, I think the same exact thing would have happened. And he was willing to fight Stipe because it was old man Stipe out of his prime, coming off a knockout loss, getting like a hip replacement and all that. And Tom Aspinall weighs 251 pounds naturally. And sure, he's, maybe a bit fluffy, but it's not forced fluff. It's natural. And he has the speed, he has the agility, he has the athleticism. Plus, he's young. He's 31 years old for heavyweight. That's incredibly young. He got so much time to still improve. He got an amazing ground game, jiu-jitsu black belt. I'm pretty sure his family was like one of the first families from the UK to get like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. But Tom Aspinall, way more well-rounded than Gon. And Stipe was out of his prime, so And he's a true heavyweight, which is why Jones is a little bit hesitant to take this fight. But also, John Jones has always wanted to play it safe when it comes to his record. Always. Even when he was in his prime, when he was pound for pound number one, right? Dan Henderson had to pull out of his fight against Jones on 8 days' notice. And then Sonnen, who was a middleweight, by the way, offered to step up on 8 days' notice again, but Jones refused to fight him. UFC 151, we all know this, and the entire event had to be canceled because John Jones was too afraid to fight a middleweight on 8 days' notice who wasn't even the champion. It's not like he was some dominant middleweight champion. He was 2-2 in his last 4 fights at the time. 2-2 in his last 4 fights, wasn't even the champion, and he was willing to step up and face pound for pound number one, John Jones. But John Jones turned it down, which is absolutely insane, right? That's like, I made a comparison. It's like Islam Makhachev refusing to fight Aljamain Sterling, Arnold Allen, or Yair Rodriguez on short notice. They're both a weight class below and 2-2 in their last 4 fights. Do you know the amount of shit Islam would get if he pulled a stunt like this and canceled an entire event? It would be crazy. Islam's had two short notice opponents, in his title run, the Moicano being the most recent, and then Volk 2, obviously, right? If Islam would have refused to fight, or if he would have canceled the entire event because he was too scared to put his good record on the line, that's just insane. That's what John Jones has been doing. And John Jones did this when he was in his prime. He was at the peak, perfect John Jones. And he was still too scared to risk this move because of his stellar record. So, of course, now, when he's more out of his prime, fighting a guy who's not a middleweight, who's a true heavyweight, of course he's not going to take this fight. And the fact that we thought that this fight was ever going to happen is, looking back, kind of a little bit silly, right? To me, it's just clear now. John Jones don't want the smoke, right? And moving on, John Jones has always had a boxing defense deficiency, right? If you look at the fights where people have had success against him in the past, like Dominic Reyes, like Gustafsson, like Thiago Santos, they can land with their boxing very well. And a lot of times when Jones approaches these fights with a boxing heavy game plan, like the first Gustafsson fight, it's a really close fight. But then when he, moves at range a little bit, like the second Gustafsson fight, and not, focusing as much on the boxing, he does a lot better, right? And in the Stipe fight, when Stipe is old and slow, yeah, Stipe looked so incredibly slow. And he had Jones backing up a lot with his boxing and was landing a good amount. Like, I rewatched the Jones Stipe fight before this video. Both of these guys just looked so flat-footed, slow, unbelievably slow, especially compared to Tom Aspinall, who legitimately moves like a welterweight. It's crazy how he does it. But just go rewatch this fight. They both are so incredibly slow. It legitimately looks like two unks fighting, which that's what it is. It's two unks battling it out. Two guys who are out of their prime battling it out. And it's just another reason why. Oh, also, I got a little, a little frame by frame from the Stipe fight. It looks kind of weird going frame by frame. You can go back in the fight and watch it, but it's just a sequence where Stipe, who looked so, I keep saying he looked so slow, is able to essentially get John Jones backing up. He's landing boxing combinations and is able to make Jones turn and face the other way and run away from Stipe. Literally running away from Stipe from the boxing with some of the worst boxing defense. And the reason that this is so important is because what does Tom Aspinall have that has been dangerous for everybody he goes up against? Incredibly quick boxing, accurate boxing, super powerful that just stuns them and knocks people down. And then he can get like a TKO from there. That's what Aspinall does. That's his game. And he's so good at that. He has the shortest average fight time in the UFC because that's just what he does, right? And seeing how much, by the way, this little sequence I just showed you is after Stipe got taken down in the first round and detonated and dominated the first round, took so much damage. He was still able to do this. The fact that he was still able to do this, I mean, who is anybody really gonna like think that John Jones is gonna beat Tom Aspinall? We all know if Tom Aspinall was in here with Stipe is going night night in 30 seconds, right? And I believe the same thing for John Jones, right? But then you might ask yourself, if John Jones never planned on fighting Tom Aspinall, why not just retire at UFC 309? Sure, it kind of looks like ducking, but it's nowhere near as bad as the situation that we have now. Well, the truth is, John Jones, he wanted a fight with Pereira, which is a much easier fight for him. Pereira, the former middleweight kickboxer whose biggest weakness is the wrestling. I mean, of course John Jones wanted that fight over the Tom Aspinall fight. It would be a much easier path to victory for Jones, but on his resume, it looks really good. It looks like he stopped this Alex Pereira guy from becoming a three-weight division champion. But the truth is, it's just a much easier stylistic matchup for John Jones. And then Pereira ends up losing to Ankalaev, which it sucks for the fans. But the good part about Pereira losing, the silver lining, is that it leaves John Jones in a very awkward situation where he's like, well, now what do I do? Because now I was planning on fighting Pereira, I can't anymore. Well, I'm not going to fight Tom, so I'm just gonna have the belt and not fight anyone, right? And the fact that the UFC hasn't stripped John Jones is insane. I know there's a bunch of negotiations going on. Apparently, there's some Netflix deal and everything. I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts on the UFC's end. But at the end of the day, you just cannot let something like this happen in your sport. And the fact that it has happened is kind of a disgrace to the fans, right? A lot of people feel like a lot of the UFC fans are kind of frustrated with the UFC in 2025, not just because of the Jones Aspinall situation, but that is one reason. The entire heavyweight division has come to a screeching halt for negotiations behind the scene, or for some reason, Jones isn't getting stripped, right? And it just kind of seems like there's a lot of meaningless fight nights. I'm just talking about kind of frustrations with the UFC. There are so many fight nights. I'm like, are we really is this really the main event? You know, and it just seems like some of the matchmaking has been off. It hasn't been a great year for the UFC, but the one thing the UFC needs to do is strip John Jones. We all know about the petition. If you don't know about the petition, go sign it, okay? And go to Tony Has Died Instagram, and he started a petition to strip John Jones. It's got almost 200,000 signatures, but I mean, it's not like it's going to do anything. You can sign it just for fun, but Dana White addressed it. He said, yeah, there's 400 million fans. 200,000 of them want John Jones to be stripped. Like, that's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. The stupidest argument. Like, there's 380 million people, being like, no, we need John Jones as the champion. No, that's not what's going on. Anybody who actually actively watches the UFC, they want John Jones to be stripped because they want the heavyweight division to move on, right? But that's all I have for this video. That's why the John Jones-Tom Aspinall fight's never happening. He's too scared to put his record on the line, especially at this point in his career when he's out of his prime. He has a boxing defense deficiency when Tom Aspinall is knocking everybody out with his quick boxing combinations. And to top it all off, John Jones is not a true heavyweight. He's not. What was that? For the last time, I just want to see the stat. It was like 4 years, 9 months, and 8 days. He gained 16 pounds, and this was the physique change. Like, this is what we're talking about. Like, come on, this was like 2 pounds of muscle, maybe. But, I'm done talking about this. If you agree with me, you can let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like the video if you made it this far. It would be very much appreciated. That's about it.